What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Nothing like recording a February rewind, my second rewind video ever, like near the end of March. And unfortunately, this video is probably not going to come out until like April. So I'm going to be doing like a February rewind in April. The reason that this is all happening is that I ended up kind of running out of time, and I was going to end up having my January and February rewinds kind of back to back, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have like something in between the two, so I ended up recording my haul video, and it took me a really long time, unfortunately, to edit that haul video. So this video is going to come out super duper late, but the upside is that I have like 3 scripts essentially written, and then I'm also working on a 4th project. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get all these projects out, but there is a ton of stuff that's going to be coming up. And I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil the surprises, but it is rewind time, and this is my second rewind ever. I did one for January, and the way that I'm going to start doing these rewind videos is that I'm going to start with digital manga first, and I will go down the line and talk about all the digital manga that I read in the month of February, and then I will go into the physical manga that I read for the month of February, and then I'll go into, at the end of the video, I'll talk about the movies that I watched for anybody that wants to click off before I get to the movies. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully you'll watch the whole thing, because this is, you know, the Eclectic Collector channel, so you know I talk about a lot of different stuff on this channel. But it's mostly just like anime and manga and films. Though this is essentially a manga channel, so it's majority manga. All right, so we're starting with digital manga. So I read pretty much, well, every month I read Kagurabachi, because like there is a new chapter pretty much every week. I think it comes out on Sundays. So what I may start doing too, I'm going to do this maybe as of this video for the rewinds. I'll put, I guess, like the week that it comes out, like the day of the week that it comes out, because like I'll usually put like how many chapters, or that's what I started doing anyways, putting how many chapters there are for that series. I kind of feel like everybody that watches this maybe already knows what Kagurabachi is. I don't know that I need to explain Kagurabachi to anybody, but I pretty much read it as it comes out, and this is a series that in my opinion is just getting absolutely bananas. Like every new chapter of Kagurabachi is just outdoes the last, and it's one of those series where like you have to pay a ton of attention to what's going on, because there's just tons of like info dumps and whatnot. There's a lot of world building, and it just keeps like stacking on top of each other, and there's certain elements of it that I read like over a year ago now, right? This series has been out for a while. It's got like a really wild sort of power system, and it's like, I think in my opinion, one of the best just power systems in a story. But that's just my opinion, don't kill me. I also keep up with Chainsaw Man. I love Chainsaw Man. It's one of my favorite series ever. Pretty much every haul video that I do on this channel, I always pick up at least a volume of Chainsaw Man, and you can see it like right there behind me. Yeah, Chainsaw Man is a series that I absolutely love from the bottom of my heart. I love Tatsuki Fujimoto. Everything that Tatsuki Fujimoto does, I support it, because he's one of my favorite creators. And yeah, pretty much I read the chapter drops for Chainsaw Man, you know, as they come out. I'm always there, you know, picking up the series from where it left off previously. And today's Monday, and tomorrow will be Tuesday, and we'll have a new chapter that drops tomorrow. And we're in the middle of March, so by the time that, you know, I do my March rewind, I'll be, you know, talking about whatever the latest chapter is. And I can't really say, you know, too much about what's happening in Chainsaw Man either, much like Kagurabachi, because I don't want to start spoiling things. I know the physical drops for Chainsaw Man are pretty far behind from where the digital is, and I don't know how many of you, you know, read Chainsaw Man physically, or how many of you keep up with the digital releases, or if you're catching up with the digital releases. So like, I don't want to start, you know, saying, oh, this just happened. Goku Rakugai is like a monthly series. I keep up with it as well. It's in an interesting arc right now. I don't know how far ahead it is from the physical volume drops, but I don't think it's too far ahead. I think it literally just hit like chapter 30, since it it's like a series that really just drops like once a month, but it is pretty good. The arc that we're in right now is an interesting one because it's focusing. I think that it's focusing on Nay. I think is what her name is. She's got like a whole thing with her backstory, and I'm not gonna say too much about that, but I will say that this arc right now is kind of focusing on her and her family and whatnot. And I mean, I don't think that's really spoiling too much because I'm not saying what's going on there, but it is a cool arc, and it's nice to see her sort of background. But that's a series that I also really liked. I talked about that in a first impressions video. I think I covered it by itself in a first impressions video a while ago, like last year or year before, because I can't remember how long I've been reading it. I think it was probably in 2023 that I talked about Goku Rakugai for the first time. But it's a pretty cool story. Like, it's a world where like beast men exist, and people that are like fixers or whatever take on jobs, and we follow these two lead characters, Alma and Miss Tao, who are I think like fixers in this city or town or whatever of Goku Rakugai. And there's all sorts of like strange happenings or whatever, and we follow them as they're just kind of like doing odd jobs. And then it starts to create like a bigger narrative, like it kind of throws you into the world and tells you like, this is what's going on, these are who the characters are. And then once we kind of get situated, then they bring in the major plot, you know what I mean, like where it's all gonna go and whatnot. And so far it's been pretty strong. I think I really like the artwork. So I think it being like on a monthly schedule allows the creator to Yuto Sano, I think his name is. It allows the creator to have more time to really bring it to life, because some of the characters in the story are absolutely insane. Some of the characters are absolutely insane, dude. So that's really fun to keep up with. One of the best series going right now on the Manga Plus app is a story called Mad. I really hope that Mad eventually gets a physical release. I don't know if it'll ever get like an anime, but I'm hoping that it does get a physical, because that story is mad. That story is insane, dude. It's one of the wildest rides that I've embarked upon, and I talked about it in a first impressions video. I read it when it initially dropped, like when they did the first chapter or whatever, when they announced it. I read that first chapter, and ever since having read that first chapter, I keep up with it every single week, or not every single week. I think it's bi-weekly. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a bi-weekly series. So every time they drop a new chapter, I'm right there, like, day one, reading it. I think it drops on Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken. Right? But like I said, I'll put the days that these chapters drop. That I'll start doing that going forward in these rewind videos. And maybe even start just figuring out, how I'm going to set these up going forward. But Mad is absolutely insane, dude. Wild story. We pretty much follow this dude named John, who is on this course of like self-destruction or whatever. He feels useless. He has one arm. Things have gone terribly wrong for him. He has a guardian angel, which is like his sister. She's always there watching out for him and trying to keep him from completely going off the edge. So it's cool that she's there to support him. And horrible things happen to this dude just constantly, and he ends up in this place where he ends up getting experimented on, and it kind of turns into like a fire punch sort of a situation. And I'm going to say that every single time. I'm going to say that every single time I talk about Mad, so get used to it. Because like I really don't know how else to describe it. But it's like Aliens, like a Quiet Place meets Fire Punch. But I don't want to say too much about it either, dude. I feel like it's one of those things where like you really should just go read it, because I have a feeling that it's going to become a massive series. It's starting already to become a massive series. I think it has like 100K, views per chapter drop. So I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know, what will. Ichi the Witch. I love Ichi the Witch. Two of the best mangaka behind it. One of them did Iruma-kun. The other one was involved in Act Age as the artist of Act Age, not the writer of Act Age. Phenomenal, phenomenal series, dude. Ichi the Witch, just from the first chapter to the latest chapter, has just been an absolutely wonderful ride. the lows, the highs, everything, and like certain characters, we're getting to know them a lot better. Like Discaris, we're starting to get to know her a lot better. We're getting to know Ichi a lot better. I think it's a weekly drop, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it is a weekly drop. But we're getting to know all these different characters better. We have like a core sort of group, you know, and I like that a lot. You know, like when stories set up like a core sort of group, and then there's like another character. And then there's like another character that was also introduced that I'm thinking might also join the core group, but I don't want to say, you know, too much about this other character because I don't want to spoil too much of it. I don't know, like if you read it, if you watching this or reading it as it drops, or maybe you're waiting for the physical to come out, which it's inevitably going to come out. It's just a matter of when. I'm assuming like once it's like 30 chapters or maybe more, once it's like far enough ahead, you know, that like they can drop a volume every 2 to 3 months, I think is when they're going to start, you know, dropping those physicals in English. And 100%, you know, once it comes out, I'm gonna collect it. I'm gonna support it, you know, because I do that with, I started collecting Ruri Dragon. I have the first volume of Ruri Dragon. I have the first 2 volumes of Kaguya Bachi, and I have 17 volumes of Chainsaw Man. So, you know what I mean? That's like, if it's something that like I deeply care about, I will support it. And I love Ichi the Witch, the artwork for it, the writing, the power system, the witches, you know, the Mantinel or whatever, witches society is super wild. All the different witches that exist in the world. The magics system, because it's not magic, but magics, because there's like these creatures, kind of like Pokemon, that you can collect and whatnot, and you have to essentially like bend them to your will. And once you do that, or rather, like you have to fulfill their prerequisites, like, you know, they have like a certain, like prerequisites or whatever that have to be met to tame a magic, and once you fit those requirements, you can essentially tame that magic. Some of them you have to fight, some of them you have to like put on like a fashion show. Like there's one of them where like I think they have to put on like a fashion show for that magic to acquire it, and another one that like can't be acquired by women, can only be acquired by a man, and ends up being acquired by a man, you know, thus creating the whole series Ichi the Witch. But phenomenal series, dude. Super excited for the future of it, because it's just like the artwork is just spiked, you know, from like where it was in the first volume. And this is a creator that, you know, has already been around. You know, this isn't a creator that's like brand new, just came out of school or whatever and is creating their first series. This is a creator that has been around. But the series that they were drawing before was like a school, you know, manga, and then, you know, go from that to doing like a really solid fantasy series, and just showing off like their creativity has been really wild on both ends. You know, the creator of Iruma-kun, who writes the story, and is it Shiro Usazaki, I think her name is, that draws it. Just great combo. The two of them have just knocked it out of the park. Two of the best combos that I've seen in a really long time. Can't wait to see, yeah, like I said before, you know, where the hell this is going to go in the future. Drama Queen is doing exceptional in my opinion. From where it started and like this whole drama around it, I'm pretty sure Drama Queen is a weekly series. I'm not sure how many chapters it's up to right now, but I'm thinking like 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. What I really like about Drama Queen is that it started off like kind of being this one thing, and as it's gotten going, like where it's up to now, I think like chapter 10, like I think it literally just hit chapter 10. It's a chapter where I don't want to say, you know, like I don't want to start spoiling it, but it's a chapter where like there's these two characters, one of whom is an alien and the other one is a human being. They're kind of in a car together, and there's this conversation that takes place while they're in the car, and it was super tense. Like I honestly thought that something was going to happen, and I don't want to say too much about it, but like the way that it was set up and everything, I kind of, when I'm reading 4 videos, like I'll tell you this, like when I'm reading 4 videos, like when I'm doing my first impressions videos, like I always say, like I want the series to get to like chapter 10, because chapter 10 is about the point where I know where the series is going. So this hit that chapter 10, and when it hit that chapter, or 10 or 11, when it hit that chapter and that car scene happened, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to do my video now. I think I'm ready to talk about this in a first impressions video. I just got to read the Marshall King and Bug Ego. Like, I just gotta read those 2 series, and then I'm gonna do all 3 of those in a first impressions video. So like, I need to get back into Marshall King and actually start reading Bug Ego from scratch. So once I read those, I'll combine, those and Drama Queen into a video, and I'm super excited to talk about Drama Queen because I'm gonna go back and just kind of like, go through the story again and just like write down a bunch of notes and kind of put together my thoughts on it. And I do like where it's headed. You just kind of see that there's like a fair chunk of like sociopathic tendencies that certain characters within the story display, and I don't think in any way, shape, or form that it's glamorizing anything. I feel like it's showing the depths of depravity that certain people can reach if, pushed far enough. People can be insane, and horrible things do happen all the time. And this is one of the series where, like, just like the building of awful things, leads to horrible results and whatnot. And it's kind of like hard to dance around, everything without saying what's going on. But I feel like it's one of those things where, like, if you're reading Drama Queen, I think you know exactly, what I'm talking about. Wild Strawberry feels like it's coming to a conclusion. That's a series that I had like really high hopes for, and the cool thing too is that it's actually lasted a lot longer than some other series have lasted. I think it's up to like chapter 40 or something like that, but there's series that like haven't even made it that far. There's series that lasted like 18 chapters and that was it. Wild Strawberry, I think, is a bi-weekly series. I've been reading it since it debuted. I talked about it in a first impressions video. I think I talked about it with something else in a first impressions video, but solid read. I'm pretty sure it's coming to a conclusion. Like, where it's at right now is at a point where like it really feels like it's starting to reach its end game. So once it does, sort of reach that end game, that's probably going to be it. Obviously, if it reaches its end game, that's it. The story's going to be over. But kind of bummed, because I was hoping that we would get, physical volumes of it. I mean, we still might, because we got Ayashimon ran for like 30 chapters or something like that, and we got physicals for it. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we do get, physicals for Wild Strawberry. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, it's kind of reaching its end point. Wild Strawberry was a ton of fun. Kind of nonsensical at times. Like, the story didn't make a ton of sense. Like, it was like things would just happen and didn't really fit the narrative they were setting up, or yeah, it was just kind of random. Yeah, we would be introduced to characters that we didn't know, and we were supposed to like kind of like act like we knew who they were or even care about them and the situation that they were in, which didn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, why should I care about this person? Like, why do I care about their drama? Like, I don't even know who the hell they are. And there's like a bunch of characters that just got like retconned out of nowhere. Like, there's this like training arc, or not training arc, but there's like this Demon Slayer sort of like, like Demon Slayer where they're in the mountains and all these characters die or whatever. And like 3 or 4 people even like make it off of the mountain in Demon Slayer. It's kind of like that in Wild Strawberry. There's this point where they go to like this facility. Like, hundreds of characters just die at this facility, and that's kind of like happened with Wild Strawberry. And then there was like a bunch of other characters that survived, and they just kind of like fell off the face of the earth. So it does feel like, I think they're kind of pushing the creator of Wild Strawberry, Ide Yonemoto, to just kind of like, put the kibosh on it, to start to, like they're doing that thing behind the scenes, like you're on stage and they're kind of behind the scenes going like wrap it up. I think that's kind of what they're doing to Ide Yonemoto. They're kind of telling them like, let's wrap it up, it's, try to get to your conclusion. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in like the next 2 or 3 chapters, or even hopefully not the next chapter, because like they set up so much, dude, that it would be such a shame for it to just, cut right there. I've been playing catch up with Astro Royale because like there's just like 10, 15 chapters that, I'm behind on. And I kind of fell behind on it because like I started reading other stuff, like I tend to read, for videos, and like I've said that like a million times on this channel, and it's true, because it's kind of tough, when you do literally everything for your channel to keep up with stuff. Somewhere along the line, something's going to get sacrificed, and Astro Royale, unfortunately, is what ended up getting sacrificed. That, and Centuria, I need to get back into Centuria. I'm like 15 or so chapters behind on that. I don't even think I talked about it in my January rewind video because like I haven't kept up with it in a really long time. And it's the same deal with Astro Royale. Unfortunately, I've not been able to keep up with it, but I have started to catch back up, and I'm like, yeah, like probably like 15-ish chapters behind on it. But I'm slowly catching up. Like I really do want to catch up because the first volume is going to drop soon, and like I want to be caught up to where the latest chapter drops are before the first volume drops. I don't know why. I just because like I want to be caught up. I want to keep up with the series. Like I like the things that I read, like digitally. I want to be caught up with them so that like when the new chapter drops, I can just sit there and read it instead of being like super duper far behind. Because it feels like once you start falling behind, before long you fall really far behind. Like there's certain series like I started reading Nua's Exorcist when that first came out, but I couldn't really get into it, so I read half of like the first chapter and then abandoned it, and now it's like 80 or 90 chapters deep, and I'm just kind of like, damn dude. I was like, damn dude, I'm gonna have like a ton of reading to do to catch up with Nua's Exorcist before that first volume drops. I already pre-ordered it, but like I want to like start catching up with the digital, maybe catch up to where it is. I gotta start reading Choji next as well. But yeah, Astro Royale, catching up with it. Astro Baby as well. Keep up with Astro Baby. That's another series much like Wild Strawberry that's starting to reach its end game. Kind of feels like it just from like reading it that we're starting to kind of wind down. It's starting to feel like it's reaching kind of like an end game. It really does feel like it when I read the latest chapter. Like we're progressing pretty quickly, so that's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, there are other series that I'm actually going to talk about in this video as well. Soloist in a Cage kind of was a shorter series as well. I think that only ran for like 20 chapters or a little bit over 20 chapters. So I mean, Astro Baby maybe running for like 4 or 5 more chapters. I don't think would be like a huge surprise. It would still be cool to get it physically, like once the last chapter drops or whatever for Astro Baby. Because honestly, it doesn't make sense, for that series to go on for super duper long. Given like what it's about, I feel like it kind of does make sense if it's a series that runs for like 40 chapters, 45 chapters or something like that. Just kind of tells like a nice short story. It doesn't feel like a shonen that's going to go on for a really long time with the premise that it had. It doesn't really feel like it's got a lot of room for expansion, given that it's all about finding Eleanor, and kind of bringing her back to her humanity. But it would have been cool to spend time with it where like you see Abby kind of grow older and older or whatever. But he is walking now, so like there is a bit of growth on his end from when he was like a baby that needed to be carried, even though they still carry him and whatnot. But well, yeah, Astro Baby. I've talked about it in a first impressions video if you want to see that for like a much more detailed sort of look at that story. Nightlight Hounds I keep up with as well. I'm pretty much caught up with it. I've read to the latest chapter, and for every month, I'm gonna be caught up to whatever the latest chapter is for that month. In March that I'm recording this video, I am caught up to the latest chapter, but even in February, I was reading it. And I really like this series a lot. It feels like it's shaping up to become a pretty interesting, series. It feels like Nightlight Hounds is going to have the ability to, go the distance, to have a long life, and I'm super excited about it. I'm really interested in seeing where Nightlight Hounds will go, as it progresses and whatnot. And I know the creator of it has like a ton of plans, and he's talked about the last chapter that came out in March. Instead of waiting to talk about it in my March rewind, I'll just mention it here because it's going to be a while before that video even comes out. But in the last chapter that dropped, he kind of mentioned that it was becoming like a turning point, and pretty much from now on, it's going to maybe go into a little bit more of a more serious sort of a note. So I'm interested in seeing, what that's going to lead to. And Light Night Hounds is a solid series, dude. Like pretty much vampires and humans coexisting in this like sort of like 1920s sort of a world and whatnot, like post, I guess, World War One sort of a world, kind of like a New York City, Chicago sort of atmosphere. And the last digital that I'm going to talk about for this video is Dan. I keep up with Dan pretty much always and forever. I'm going to keep up with Dan. It's almost like to 200 chapters at this point, but I love Dan. One of my favorite series ever. I'm always going to keep up with it. There's a new, well, what is it? The new season's coming out soon. I think like June, July, somewhere around there. We're going to get season 2 of Dan, so I'm definitely super excited about that. Keeping up with the anime, and as love the manga, so I pretty much just read every chapter of the manga that comes out. And today, as I'm recording this video, is Monday, Dan Monday. So every Monday I'm there, reading the new chapters of Dan, and the chapter that dropped today was a fun one. And we're always just like being introduced to new characters. Like every arc, we get introduced to a new character, and then that character becomes a part of the group. And I think they're like 9 people deep. Like I won't say too much about it, because I don't want to like spoil too much of it. But seriously, like every arc, like we get introduced to a new character who like becomes a part like of the extended Dan family. And it's so fun, dude. Like it's such a great series, man. Like I absolutely love it. And from pretty much when the first volume of it dropped, that's when I started reading it, when the first volume dropped. And then like I couldn't wait for volume 2, so I just started reading it digitally, and yeah, I've been keeping up with it ever since, and I love Dan. So yeah, that's it for the digital, and we are on to the physical. So right off the bat, we've got Heart Gear Volume 4. This was a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I love Heart Gear, dude. The final volume of Heart Gear is coming out sometime this year. I think in like June, July, somewhere around there. We're getting the final volume of Heart Gear. And this is a series that I've sung the praises of to no end, and I will continue to sing the praises of it. I actually have this creator's other series, Black Torch, on the shelf, and I want to start reading it. I'm probably going to start reading it in April. The rest of March is kind of spoken for in a sense, because like there's like 5 other volumes of manga that I have to read. Like I just read Mujina Into the Deep for my currently reading video, and then I have to read like Tokyo Alien Bros and like 3 other volumes of manga that I'm going to be talking about in my summer currently reading video. But yeah, I'm going to start reading Black Torch probably next month, so that'll end up being hopefully in my April rewind video in May. Yeah, Heart Gear, incredible artwork, solid story. Like you have this universe where humanity is pretty much like long extinct, and she is the last girl on Earth, and she is being taken to this place called Valhalla by that dude right there, and then that is a friend that joins them in like the second or third, I think it's like the third or fourth volume. No, third volume. This dude right here named Rock joins the fray, and yeah, this is a 4.5 for me. There are like sections in the series that will kind of explain world lore, and it's like a break of text or whatever, and like it shows, kind of reminds me of like Nier Automata, where like you find the text logs or whatever, and like there's like just like lore dump galore. Like if you want to read them, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I do suggest reading it, because like it gives you so much information about the world and really rounds out this lived-in world. And that's like the one thing that I can think of to compare this the most to, is like probably Nier Automata. So the next one is Black Lagoon, volumes 4 and 5. Read both of these in February. Both of these are 5 out of 5. I love Black Lagoon. I love Black Lagoon, dude. So I mean, pretty much like it's gonna be like 5s like every time that I do these, and I kind of decided to just put these together for this video, because in the other one I ended up just talking about Black Lagoon for way too long. Like I talked about like 2, I think it was, and then I talked about 3 separately, so I ended up just taking way too long to talk about it, and I just felt like I ran out of things to say about Black Lagoon. There's 2 different arcs that happen here. Like one arc takes place here, which is kind of like a terrorist sort of a cell or whatever that involves a Japanese dude, and then this one we follow this young woman right here. Rock goes back to Japan, and it's a super sad arc. And I talked about it in my January rewind, but Black Lagoon is one of those series that like meshes darkness and light super duper well. You know, like you have these characters like her, and she even mentions it too, you know, like that she essentially dwells in the dark. She lives in the dark. And Rock, who is not on here anywhere, and Rock, you know, kind of dabbles in the dark, but he doesn't live in it. He's just kind of like a tourist. But people like Revy, you know, people like Revy or this girl right here, she's born into it. She has no choice. You know, like it's her family's legacy. She is, you know, born into a Yakuza family. And it ends up, you know, being her biggest detriment, you know, for her existence and whatnot. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, it's super sad. It's one of the best arcs in the story. And one of my favorite characters is coming back, I think, pretty soon. I don't know if it's the next volume that I'm going to read or the volume after. And literally volume 6, which I'm probably not going to even read in March, unfortunately, because like I said, I already have like the whole month planned with what I'm going to read for my currently reading video. And then like there's two other volumes that I said I was going to read. So unfortunately in March, I'm probably not going to get any Black Lagoon read. But when April comes around, I'm going to read 6 and 7. And 6, we revisit Roberta, and it's Roberta's Blood Trail, which is one of my favorite arcs of the whole series. Like I have the Blu-ray of it, and I've watched it through twice because I think Roberta's Blood Trail is just one of the wildest stories ever. And just seeing what this character gets put through, and that's, oh man, like we could have a conversation about Black Lagoon for like 3 hours. If you want to, man, let's do it. We'll just have like a 3-hour Black Lagoon conversation, but I could legit just talk about the series for hours on end. But yeah, I love Roberta's Blood Trail. That's probably my favorite arc of the whole series, and I love Roberta as a character because of what she goes through and, you know, what she was at one point in her life, and then how she's able to step away from it, or desires to step away from it, and then she ends up getting pulled back into it, not once, but twice, and the second time she gets pulled back into it, it breaks her completely to where she just becomes a raving lunatic. And it's such a sad, but such a wonderful, you know, arc and whatnot. And while it is, you know, I've talked about this too in the other video and my January rewind, you know, while she is just like this rabid mad dog, there's also like this darkness within her. The same thing with like Revy, you know, like these different characters that dwell in the dark, and they're full of darkness. And there's characters like Rock, who I think is a great, you know, look from the outside in, who is like a representative for us, the readers, you know, who aren't involved in this sort of darkness. You know, Rock acts like that, you know, catalyst to take us into this world where we see like the worst of humanity. And, you know, it looks like all fun and games and whatnot, even though it's like brutal violence. But these people are all screwed up. You know, they all have like their demons and whatnot, the awful things they've seen and done. And I think that Black Lagoon does an exceptional job of, you know, bringing light to these characters, you know, showing their stories, telling their stories. And I think it's seriously becoming one of my favorite manga ever. So yeah, can't wait to keep reading it. All right, we got Tank Chair Volume 2. I loved this volume of Tank Chair. So when I read the first volume of it, my one gripe with it was that it just felt really dumb. Not that there's anything wrong with that, you know, because like I like dumb stories. I like things that are meant to be dumb, you know, like you're not supposed to take it seriously. But this actually went from being something that was like super dumb to getting a little more interesting with this second volume. I feel like the second volume really heightened the story up and brought, you know, it brings new characters in. We kind of get introduced to like the person from whom these two characters ran, you know, the person they were trying to escape. And the reason they were trying to escape that person is because that person was going to kill the little sister. I think her name is Shizuka. She was going to die. And then these two characters right here, like I've got a lot more empathy for them, you know, because in the first volume they were just kind of there, and they were kind of there to, you know, be a foil or whatever to try to take down our two characters right here. We follow them as well, and you see, you know, who they were before they had their augmentations and whatnot. It's kind of sad, you know, the things that they get put through, but overall phenomenal. Phenomenal volume to see it change and not just be dumb, violence and whatnot, like just fighting monkey men and whatnot. There's actually a lot more going on, and hopefully, going forward, it does make sense for it to have kind of like the dumb, violence or whatnot, goofy violence, because some does have that too. So it's fun to have that, and it should continue to have it, because like, I mean, if you're going to name your series Tank Chair, there's got to be some kind of goofy violence in there. But I do like that it's mixed up, kind of like Chainsaw Man, where like it's like a stupid name, but it's like parts of it are like super dark and super serious, but at the same time it's like super goofy. It's kind of the same thing with Tank Chair, but like we're starting to get a lot more of the background, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in volume 3. Alright, so next up, we've got one of the raunchiest things that I've ever read in my life from the creator of Prison School and Futari Switch, Akira Hiramoto. We've got Raw Hero Volumes 5 and 6. I gave Volume 5 a 4.5, and I gave Volume 6, the final volume of the series, a 4. There's another series coming out that Akira Hiramoto wrote, and it was written by Muneyuki Kaneshiro, who wrote Jagan. And if you know this channel, you know I never shut the hell up about Jagan. Like, I never shut up about Jagan, but yeah, Muneyuki Kaneshiro wrote that series. I think it's called like Earth Ball Girls or whatever. I'll put it over here, what the series is called. But yeah, like there's the two of them, and knowing how raunchy this dude is, and like how great of a writer Muneyuki Kaneshiro is, he also, something that I think like more mainstream viewers might be more familiar with, is Muneyuki Kaneshiro is the writer for Blue Lock. So I mean, for those of you that maybe don't know Jagan, he also did that. He also did another series, The Gods Only Know, or for whatever, I'll put that over here. But yeah, the last 2 volumes of Raw Hero, I wouldn't say it's a letdown, but it is kind of went out with a whimper, I guess. This volume right here was super duper screwed up. The situations in it, the sheer amount of what in the hell am I reading? The sheer amount of what the hell am I reading with this story is what I love, why I love it so much. And Akira Hiramoto just does such a phenomenal job, like even with Prison School, of writing these really nonsensical, super irreverent, toilet humor sorts of stories. And like he did it with Prison School forever ago, and I love Prison School. I want to read the manga. I watched the anime a lifetime ago, and I really want to read that. I really want to read the manga. Like, it's been on my shelves forever, and I collected it at a time, like during COVID, where like it was impossible to come by certain volumes, and like I collected the whole thing during that era, and now you could probably just buy the whole thing, like every chapter on Amazon. But yeah, pretty much, how do I talk about this? I don't really know how to talk about the series, because it is super duper offensive, and yeah, if you're somebody that gets offended easily, I don't think you're going to like this. You're probably going to have a miserable time. This is just for like degenerates. Like, this is for people like me who are just like full on degenerates. Pretty much there's a dude who cross-dresses, which is that dude right there. Pretty much like cross-dresses as a girl, but there's a lot more going on to it. Like, he shows up for this meeting, and he's given by this dude that works with him for this company. There's like heroes and villains and whatnot, and this dude that works for the same company that he does, he takes this job, and the guy gives him a suitcase, but instead of giving him the suitcase that has like the suit that he's supposed to wear for this job interview, he gives him the suitcase that's carrying like ladies' clothes and whatnot that was for his girlfriend or a partner or whatever the hell she was. I forgot what her whole thing is, but he's given the wrong suitcase, and he ends up showing up at this interview dressed like a girl, and then pretty much the rest of the series he cosplays as a girl, and it's super funny, dude. It doesn't I've talked about this in a video a long time ago. It doesn't make fun of trans people. Like, it's not that at all. So if you're worried that, maybe it's like poking fun at trans people, that it's not what it does. It's just, he just happens to cross-dress, and like I feel like that's like the one thing that doesn't, get made fun of. It embraces it, which I really appreciated. Like, trans people definitely don't deserve to be knocked down any pegs, because they're human beings and they deserve respect and love. It does, in a sense, become a part of the story, and even the lead, as he's dressed like a girl, doesn't, ever, poke fun at himself for being dressed like a girl. He like takes it fully seriously. So I don't know, I think it's a really wild, really irreverent, gross out, hilarious, super inappropriate story. So, yeah, if you're a degenerate like myself, I think that uh, you will enjoy Raw Hero. All right, so next up we've got Gannibal by Ablaze Manga. This was a 4.5 for me. I can't remember why I didn't give it a straight 5 because I read this a while ago. I read this at like the beginning of February, but just overall a solid chapter. I think a solid volume, but I think the reason that I didn't give it a 5 is that it's like one of those series where like I don't know how you drag this thing out. You know, that's not that I'm saying it's bad because it's not bad at all. It's incredible. The mystery is really good, but it's like I don't like I guess that like it flip flops too much. You know, where it's like this family's evil, but then it's like, hey, they're not evil. And it's like, no, they're evil. It's like, but are they really evil? You know, it's just like, make up your mind, dude. Like, I don't like the constant flip-flopping, you know, like, of like, are they bad? They're bad. Are they bad? But this volume set up some things that are really wild, and I think I know where it's going. It doesn't outright tell you, which I'm really grateful for, but it does kind of put the clues there for you to kind of go like, yep, that makes sense. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I don't want to say, you know, Gannibal, pretty much like the Hot Fuzz, like a Japanese Hot Fuzz, you know, but a little more serious and whatnot. Family moves to like this remote town or whatever, where like the residents might or might not be cannibals. And there's like this head family that's full of just like raging psychopaths. Like everybody in the family is a nutcase. And the townsfolk aren't all there either. They're all pretty deranged and whatnot, and it's a great read, dude. I don't want to say too much about it because like I feel like it's one of those things where like I feel like you should just go into it and start reading it and kind of like piecing the puzzle together for yourself and kind of watching this dude take on literally a town single-handedly, because that's literally what it is. It's like one cop versus like this entire town, while also trying to play mind games with the town while they're trying to play mind games with him. And it's so good, dude. It's so goddamn well written. I'm super grateful to Ablaze Manga for doing that crowdsourcing, you know, and getting this thing made. One of the best translations. You know, it's over in Japanese. I think it's been over in Japanese for a really long time. But, you know, we finally got it, and I hope that Ablaze maybe one day picks up Jagan. Come on, Ablaze, pick up Jagan or like pick up Pumpkin Night or something, dude. Let's do this thing. All right, I got back into Smokin' Parade finally after like 3 years. I read the first volume of the series literally like 3 years ago, and I'm now in 2025 finally reading volume 2. This is the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, this is the reason. It's stuff like this that's the reason that these monthly rewind videos even came into existence. Is that like I feel bad that I've read like one volume of manga for certain series and like I'll have like the whole set and be like, oh yeah man, this is a great series, I read volume 1, and then never read it again. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with Smokin' Parade finally. Once I finish reading for my currently reading video, I'm gonna start, you know, putting a real dent into Smokin' Parade. It's only 10 volumes, so it shouldn't really take me too long, you know, to get through it. My goal is to start trying to read like 2 chapters a month, 2 volumes a month of Smokin' Parade, and unfortunately I wasn't in love with this volume. This was a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It felt kind of choppy. I don't know if it's just me, maybe like I just don't have the best reading comprehension, but it felt kind of choppy, and certain things just happened a little too fast. Like, yeah, like I guess that kind of fills in the choppy thing that I was talking about, or like the pacing just doesn't always feel great, and that's a big downer for me. Like if it feels like we're kind of building something and then just suddenly boom, 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 and it's too fast, you know, or like it doesn't, you know, give you a reason for it, doesn't really let it breathe, then it doesn't work for me. Well, like I think Kagurabachi is a great example where like that story is pretty much just like non-stop action, but it'll give you like what's going on in between the action. There will be like a random panel that'll kind of explain, you know, what's going on. And in this, it's just certain things feel like they just happen super duper fast and it doesn't make a ton of sense. But like I said, maybe I'm just not, using 100% of my brain when I read it, and that's why it doesn't make sense, because I'm just not. Maybe I'm just shutting it off as I'm in the middle of it, but it's not bad. I like the artwork quite a bit. I'm gonna keep reading it. Obviously, I mean, I want to see where it's gonna go, and it's too early on for me to call it quits on it. So I don't want to either. Like I want to see where it's gonna go. I loved Dead Man Wonderland, so I want to see where Smoking Parade's gonna go, and I want to give these creators a shot. I will have the whole thing. It's 10 volumes. I like the sort of psychopaths thing, where people kind of like go crazy in this world. I think they're called like rabbits or whatever. When people lose their minds, they're called, I think, rabbits. And then you got like these characters right here that exterminate them. They go out and they take them out. And there's kind of like a whole second society of people that this dude's little sister is a part of, and she almost kills him. Leaves him kind of crippled. Missing, I think, 2 arms and a leg, and he ends up getting like machine parts, and he joins these people that are also like part machine or whatever, that have had limbs, that have lost limbs, and they work in tandem or whatever to fight off this other sort of society or whatever, this other gang that are trying to I don't know if they're trying to take over the world, or what the hell their aim is, or if it's just like turf wars or whatever. But I don't know, I guess we'll see, dude. We'll see as it gets going, where it all is, where it's all leading. Alright, Mieruko-chan, Volume 10. This series, this volume right here was a 5 out of 5. This is, in my opinion, probably the strongest chapter. I keep saying chapter. This is, in my opinion, probably the strongest volume yet of Mieruko-chan, or at least one of the strongest, because we are introduced to a new sort of evil, and I think that it's going to maybe be the wildest thing that we encounter in this series. And it was kind of like an arc, that was like the beginning arc of the story, and it ended up getting closed, I think maybe like around volume 7 or 8 or something like that. We close out the first big arc of the story, and I don't want to say too much about it to not start spoiling it, but then we started a new arc, and we were introduced to a new girl. It was this girl right here. We got introduced to her, and with her, kind of like a new set of problems. And there is this dude who I thought might have been somewhere on the cover, but he's not. We're introduced to this dude who is kind of like a spirit medium, but he has like a really wild ability, and he knows all these sorts of things, but he comes off like a goofball, and like nobody really believes him, nobody really trusts him, but he's actually super duper smart and knows a lot of stuff. He's like kind of like the Gojo of this series, and there's a scene with him in like his place or whatever where he is attacked by like a ghost, and it is legitimately one of the wildest. Even thinking about it, it's kind of like making my skin crawl thinking about it. It's one of the wildest things that this story's done yet, and I think that was kind of like the point where I was like, this is a 5 out of 5, dude. There's no way in hell this volume is not a 5 out of 5. Super strong, man. Like, we get some smaller resolutions, and one thing I really like that Tomoki Izumi does is that like he's really great at setting up like bait and switches, where like you think that it's gonna go this way, and it's setting it up, and there's all these points. Everything points to like this person being a raging psychopath and this and that, and then like there'll be exposition over here that's like, oh wait, I guess they aren't actually a psychopath, they're just misunderstood. And the way he does that is so rad, dude. And yeah, I don't want to say, dude, it's hard to talk about it because like I don't want to spoil it, and I don't know who's caught up this far, or who's gonna start it soon. Maybe they haven't started it yet, or they're like on volume 1 or 2 or something, and I don't want to be like, this thing happened in volume 10, and just like spoil the living hell out of it, dude. But yeah, please, if you're reading this thing, catch up ASAP. If you're reading this thing, dude, I can't wait to see what you think when you finally get to this volume, what you think of it, dude, because this is just one of the best volumes so far, in my opinion. Probably the best volume that I've read of Mieruko-chan Volume 10. Definitely a game changer volume, and I'm really excited to see what the hell is going to happen in Volume 11. Unfortunately, this series drops like once every 6 months or something like that, dude. It takes a really long time to get volumes of Miyako-chan, but I don't even care, man, because it's one of the strongest series that I've ever read. So yeah, if you can get past like if you can get past the first volume and like the super heavy not nudity, but just like lewdness and whatnot of the first volume, I promise you it seriously turns into one of the best series ever. I saved this for last. I was actually going to talk about this in the middle of the video, but I was like, why would I do that? I need to save the best for last. I don't know what you got going on, but if you can pull up a chair, just sit down, grab a nice drink, whatever it is, some water, some juice. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but I used to. If you got a nice beer or some wine, some whiskey, whatever, pull up, put on your headphones, and let's take this ASMR journey. Let's take this ASMR journey into the magical world of Soloist in a Cage. Alright, so Soloist in a Cage. This is just altogether, volumes 1 through 3, a masterpiece. Soloist in a Cage is one of the most amazing, wonderful, dark, depressing, violent, gritty, majestic pieces of media that I've ever consumed. I love this story, dude, start to finish. This is a goddamn masterpiece. Like, I want to do a video, like a masterpiece video about Soloist in a Cage. I was gonna do like, I've had like so many different ideas with how I was gonna talk about Soloist in a Cage. Like, I didn't know how I wanted to do it. If I was gonna do like it's a masterpiece video. I've only ever done one of those, and I did it for Fire Punch like 3-4 years ago. And like I never did another one, but I feel like Soloist in a Cage deserves one of those videos. I was either gonna do that or like I was gonna invent like a new thing where like I just like off the cuff talked about Soloist in a Cage for like half an hour with no script or anything. But I might just do it here. I might just spend like the next half hour like just singing the praises of Soloist in a Cage. For anybody who doesn't know what Soloist in a Cage is about, we follow this girl right here named Chloe, and I like that it takes it, the story like full circle. Chloe, in the beginning of the story, is a little girl who has a little brother named Locke, and when he is a baby in the crib, like she dances for him or whatever, just to kind of keep him happy. Their parents are both dead, I think. Like, they were collected at different points in time by like the military, or their dad was collected. Somebody was selected by the military. And I think the mom went to find the dad, and then she just never came back. And they live like high up in this apartment sort of complex, and down below in the street, you just see people being murdered and whatnot, and they don't leave the apartment. But luckily there's these neighbors that like bring them food and take care of them, but the neighbors are going to escape. And when the neighbors escape, she takes her brother with her, and she's like a little girl, like 6-7 years old, 8 maybe at the most, and her brother is like a newborn. He's months old. I don't even think he's a year old yet. She takes him with her to try to escape this city and go with these people. And when they get to like the top of, I'll show you a picture. There's like these huge like Attack on Titan style walls or whatever, and they start to climb up the walls. Something happens, and she lets go of her brother, and he falls into the snow. A lot of time passes, years pass, and she comes back to the city as an adult. And in the years that she's been away, she's learned how to become an assassin, essentially. She's a trained killer. Like, she has no sense of self-worth, in a sense, where she doesn't value her own safety at all. All she cares about is finding and saving her brother. And it's something that becomes steadily more evident as you see her just get put through the absolute ringer, man. Like in the story, she gets put through the goddamn ringer. It's really tough to watch, her get just annihilated, because you come to love her. Like, you come to love her as a character. You come to care about her. And when you see her just get beat to a pulp, it hurts internally. because you develop such strong feelings for her and for her journey and whatnot, and for her to find her brother. And it does hurt, to see her get hurt, but it is an absolute masterpiece of a story to see the things that she does, like the violence that she partakes in, and the people she kills, and all these, the way it's drawn too. The way it's drawn is so wonderful. The artwork feels so alive. At times it feels so brutal and just sad, and it never stops being sad. It just never stops being sad. Even like when it's violent and brutal and gritty and whatnot, it just always feels sad. Even when like she's like doing these wild feats and just killing these dudes that really do deserve to die. Like she kills these drug dealers at one point in time. This one dude, this older guy, asks for her help in taking out the men that killed his daughter. So she goes on this bus and essentially like takes out all of these dudes. And while it feels incredible to see her, lay down the law and take out all of these awful pieces of garbage, it's still really sad, because she just carries this weight around her ankles. And literally at one point in time, like there's like all the people that she's killed are literally like pulling her down at one point. And I don't know if I'll show you the screen because it's kind of a spoilery thing, but like they really are like kind of like pulling her down back to earth, back down from this cloud that she's on at one point in time. And it just really shows you that she is shackled by the horrible, violent actions that she has taken on her journey to find and save her little brother. And dude, it's like I can keep just saying over and over, it's a masterpiece, but it's one of those things where you have to essentially read it for yourself. I can sit here and say all these pretty flowery words or whatever, like word salad or whatever, to try to get you to agree with me. But ultimately, it's one of those things where you have to take the journey for yourself. You have to read it for yourself if you so choose, which I really do hope that you do embark on this journey, because it is one of the most amazing pieces of media that I've ever consumed. Like I love film. I've watched tons of films. And I love, art house movies. I love violent movies. I love action, suspense, dramas, comedies, whatever. I'm a fan of film. I'll watch anything. I love Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky, but at the same time, like I had a fun time watching, like Hot Tub Time Machine, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But it's just like super fun. A Hot Rod is super fun as well. But I also love like The Brutalist. I think The Brutalist is a masterpiece. And so I'm somebody that like, I'm all over the damn place. And like, I feel like once you've consumed tons of different media, I feel like you're able to appreciate like true art, true beauty. And this is one of those series where like every goddamn panel of this manga is a piece of art. Every panel of every chapter of every volume of Soloist in a Cage just creates the framework for what is essentially a goddamn masterpiece. And I'm going to write my thoughts. I'm going to go back through everything and just kind of like give you like a much more concise sort of, thought-driven video and whatnot, not just me sitting here going, oh my god, it's the best thing ever. You know what I mean? Like I really want to sit down and kind of give you my thoughts in a more cohesive way, to where I'm not just kind of like connecting dots all over the place and saying kind of like the same words over and over in different ways. But yeah, dude, this is a goddamn masterpiece, and I don't think I'm ever going to forget Chloe. I'm never going to forget her journey. I'm never going to forget this series. I love characters like that. Like, I love tragic characters. I feel like I've always connected to like super tragic characters, because I don't know why. I think just because like I suffer from depression and whatnot, lifelong depression sufferer. I feel like I could just like connect more to people like that. So yeah, please, if you haven't read this, please read Soloist in a Cage. Alright, so we made it to the end of the video. Now we are going to talk about some films, and I'm going to rapid fire these films. I don't want to talk too much about any of them because this is a manga channel, so I'm just going to tell you what I watched, and if you've seen any of them, please let me know what you think about them. So right off the bat, we got The Cell. There was a re-release of The Cell in like these 4K I guess releases or whatever, and I bought it and I watched The Cell in theaters when I was a kid. I was like 9 or 10 years old or whatever. I saw The Cell in theaters, loved it. Even right now when I rewatched it for this, I don't even know what third time or whatever, because I used to have the VHS of it when I was a kid. 4.5, I think it's the director's cut of the film. Really, really great film. Definitely worth watching. One of the definitely one of the best early sci-fi movies, starring like Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn. But yeah, really, really well done. I watched Companion. I loved Companion. That I gave a 4. And I gave Companion a 5 out of 5. Super irreverent, super dumb, but really well made. Definitely a movie that really pokes fun at like the good guy tropes and whatnot, and I thought it was, yeah, definitely, I gave it a 5 out of 5, so I loved it. Paris, Texas. I was literally just talking about broken characters, and this features one of the best broken characters in cinema, as well as some of the most beautiful cinematography that I've ever seen in a film. Paris, Texas, phenomenally well made. In the Mood for Love, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. It kind of reminds me of Kowloon Generic Romance, and I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if Kowloon Generic Romance isn't like directly ripped from In the Mood for Love. Like, almost 100% now believe that without In the Mood for Love, Kowloon Generic Romance might not exist at all. Because if you read that manga and then kind of look at the film, In the Mood for Love, you'll see like there's a lot of similarities to it, and it's just a beautifully made film, like super nostalgic, and it's nostalgic on purpose. Like, it has like a really dreamy sort of quality to it, and that was definitely on purpose, because it's Wong Kar-wai's sort of look back at his childhood and whatnot, and the China that he grew up in like the 50s, 60s, or whatever, when he was a kid, and it does feel super nostalgic, and I think they did a great job in doing that, creating like this yearning, this longing for a bygone era. We Live in Time. This I gave a 4 out of 5. Do not watch this movie unless you feel like having depression forever. The chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Florence Poe is astounding. The two of them have some of the best chemistry ever, and it's like segmented. It's like a film that's told in parts that aren't really a linear sort of story. It's kind of like all over the place, but it does tell a narrative, and it does have like a really sad, really heartbreaking ending. And yeah, it's one of those films that like it will just break your goddamn heart, but it's so beautiful, dude. It's worth watching. It's kind of like watching Your Lie in April. You know what I mean? It's like, it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's just like, why the hell did I watch this? Super duper well made. The Gorge, starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Miles Teller. This I gave a 3.5 out of 5. It's okay. It feels like they tried to make like an H.P. Lovecraft, At the Mountains of Madness sort of a rip, but did it terribly. Yeah, it's not that great, dude. I gave it a 4. I gave it a 3.5 just because I was trying to be generous. Like, I would have given it a 3, but yeah, it's really not a great movie. It's kind of mediocre. I think I like the action a bit, and I like the creature designs and whatnot, and that's probably like the only reason I gave it a 3.5 instead of like a 3. Somebody I know gave it like a half a star, and so yeah, I think that kind of tells you where it's at. Inherent Vice, I gave this a 5 out of 5. I love this movie. Paul Thomas Anderson is a phenomenal director. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, and there's just tons of like cameo actors and whatnot. Just pretty much like an ensemble cast. Tons of people are in it. Reese Witherspoon's in it. Josh Brolin, all sorts of just like big name actors and whatnot cameo in this film, but it's pretty much like a drug movie. Like, if you're a fan of like things like Spawn or Drugstore Cowboy, you know, those sorts of movies. This is like super duper close to just being a rip-off of Drugstore Cowboy. It does kind of like, yeah, if you've seen Drugstore Cowboy and you've seen this movie, I feel like you'll know what I'm talking about. But it does kind of feel like it almost rips off Drugstore Cowboy a bit, at least some of the ideas from it. But still really phenomenal film. Like, I gave it a 5 out of 5 and loved every goddamn second of it, because I'm a fan of like those, and it feels like it was made in the 90s. That's another thing that I loved about it. Like, I love a film that not just takes place in a certain time, but it feels like it was made in that specific time period. Like, that is phenomenal filmmaking, in my opinion, where like it does feel like it came out of a period and not like it's supposed to reflect a period that's like, you know, long gone or whatever. And the last one that I'm going to talk about for this video is The Monkey. I saw The Monkey in theaters and it was a blast. Just non-stop, gory as all hell. I loved every second of it. Theo James plays like 2 different characters, twins that have this monkey that they inherited from their dad, but the monkey has like a little drum or whatever. I actually bought the monkey, like I bought the replica or whatever of it, so I don't know when the hell it's going to get here. I guess it has to be fabricated or made or whatever, and then it'll get shipped to me. But yeah, I bought the monkey tin, popcorn tin. I have the Nosferatu popcorn tin right there too. I got that at the movies. I couldn't find the monkey one at the movies, unfortunately. I ended up having to buy it from the Cinemark website, and ended up paying like $60 for it or whatever, but definitely worth it because it's worth owning, I think, in my opinion, because I'm a collector and like obviously, you know, have all this stuff. So I ended up picking up from there, and yeah, just love the movie. It was so nonsensical, dude. Tons of fun, tons of gore. If you like, you know, kind of like Final Destination, just over the top violent sort of films, like even Terrifier or whatever, the Terrifier series, I think you'll have a blast with The Monkey. And that's it. That's all I got for you. That was my February rewind. It feels wild that now this is the second rewind video that I ever do, and hopefully, like, you know, I'll start getting into a rhythm more, I guess. You know, as I do more rewind videos, I'll start to get into like a better rhythm for doing these videos. But I'm super excited that I got to do a second one, and I hope you like this video. I hope that you enjoyed our time together. And if you want to see more of me, you can become a YouTube member down below, or you can join the Patreon, whichever you feel like. If you don't want to do either of those things, you do not have to, but I do appreciate it. I'm still going to drop the same videos for you regardless if you join Patreon or become a member, or if you choose to just be a sub. That's totally fine. I would be nothing without you all that watch these videos. I appreciate the living hell out of you. You are the reason that this channel exists, and you will always be the reason this channel exists. And before anything, you all are the reason that I make these videos and that I sit here and edit them and do all this work and whatnot. I do it because, like, I'm super grateful that you all, you know, hang out with me. You know, you take time out of your day, whatever you got going on, you take a few minutes or an hour and change, however long these videos are, to sit here with me. Or even if it takes you like 2 weeks to watch it, if you're watching it in small increments, that's fine too. There's no rush to watch any of these videos that I make, but the fact that you watch any amounts of these means the absolute world to me. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please take care of yourselves.